Are you serious? I was enjoying coffee just too much. Are you serious? Get a cup of coffee. Everybody, calm down. But it's back. A Middle East two-state solution discussion. Oh, boy. But look, wait a minute. Trump's coming in, so hang on a minute. Let's find out what's going on. First, put a shout out for, speaking of Israel, the best olives in the world are there. So getolive1.com/Paul. That's getolive1.com/Paul. Look, we partnered with Dr. Stephen Gundry to help share some information with you. Would you believe it if I told you inside your pantry right now is the most healthiest foods on the planet? It's true, though. If you have some olive oil, olive oil, okay? You probably use it for cooking, but there are countless ways to use olive oil to help yourself look and feel younger. For example, olive oil is a natural way to help you achieve a more youthful appearance. Besides helping you look younger on the outside, it's a fantastic tool for your insides as well. And according to Dr. Stephen Gundry, that famous cardiologist and surgeon, nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high-quality olive oil into your daily routine as possible. Take a swig of it every day, okay? A shot in your coffee. But, you know, it really will help you. Cook with it, use it. But any olive oil won't do. You can't just get any kind, okay? There's a lot of different brands. Some of them don't. They cut it with different stuff. What you really need to do is get the best and use it. And Dr. Stephen Gundry came to this realization. He's appalled, but some olive oils are so powerful, it may only take just a few teaspoons or a week to see incredible health benefits. I'm going to tell you right now, click on that link below this video. Right now, go to getolive1.com/Paul. Just click on that link, getolive1.com/Paul. You'll be glad that you did. I guarantee it. Well, all right. A couple things are going on. Certainly, this webinar coming up. We're only 9 days away. This webinar is 9 days away. So get your tickets. Be ready for it. It will be powerful. Now, the Middle East. Here's the latest on what's going on. First of all, information right now from today. Then I'm going to tell you what they're thinking. And then I'm going to reflect on a video that I just posted. It will actually goes live on my Patreon channel that you'll be able to see when I was in Jerusalem meeting with a member of the Knesset. Okay, Palestinian Prime Minister. That's right. It's no longer Mahmoud Abbas, but now the prime minister is a guy who wants to make a two-state solution. I'll tell you about him in a minute. But the Palestinian prime minister says that the Palestinian Authority should run Gaza in the future. So in other words, all right, they're admitting Hamas has got to go, but they don't want Israel running it. They want to run it under the Palestinian Authority. So the Palestinian Prime Minister says it's unacceptable for any entity other than the Palestinian Authority to run the Gaza Strip in the future, as Israel and Hamas appear to be at its closest point yet to sealing a deal to end the 15-month war with a hostage exchange and ceasefire. We're waiting for it. Trump said it better be done before he takes office next Monday, January 20th at 12 noon. Palestinian leadership and the government of the, quote, state of Palestine, which isn't one, but Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa has said he was visiting in Norway. He was meeting with one of the 3 European countries that formally now recognize a Palestinian state in Israel. Hamas seized power back in Gaza in 2007 and confining for 17 years, they've literally confined the Western-backed Palestinian Authority's limited self-rule to parts of just the West Bank. So the Palestinian Authority got pushed out and they're over in the West Bank, and it's Hamas who's been running the Gaza Strip. The United States has called for a revitalization of the Palestinian Authority to govern both the West Bank and Gaza ahead of eventual statehood, which Israel government opposes. Now, when I say the United States called for it, not Trump. The Biden administration, the current administration right now, still wants a two-state solution. That has been the Democrats' position for a long time. Well, Mustafa has said any attempt to consolidate the separation between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip or creating a transitional entities will be rejected. Israel's war against Hamas, of course, began when Hamas attacked the Israeli people on October 7th, 2023. They stormed into southern Israel and they killed about 1,200 innocent people and abducted 250 others. A third of those hostages, which is about 100 that are still in Gaza, are believed to be already dead. The Israeli-Hamas war has led to 46,000 Palestinian deaths, two-thirds of which are jihadi Hamas fighters. The rest would be innocent civilians. Now, there's other information going on. While that's all taking place, and you have a brand new ambassador to Israel coming, and that is Mike Huckabee. You're going to have also, you're going to have Mr. Witkoff, who's already been an envoy for President Trump. He's already been negotiating. He's in this negotiation right now on behalf of the incoming Trump administration, and he's working side by side right now with, Anthony Blinken, who is still the current Secretary of State. Now, the new Secretary of State coming in is Marco Rubio. He'll be coming in. He'll get confirmed. He's in the hearings right now today. He's going to get confirmed. He'll be the next Secretary of State. He is against a two-state solution. He is very pro-Israel. So is Mike Huckabee, and so is Donald Trump. It's the rest of the world that wants to part the land. And God said, don't part the land. Okay, you can read it, and I'll read it to you in Joel chapter 2. Matter of fact, here's what it says. I'll just read it. In Joel chapter 3. In Joel chapter 3, the first two verses, it says, for behold, in those days, which will be the last days, which are these days, and behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So this prophecy of the parting of the land of Israel is right there in Joel 3. Nobody wants that to happen. And if it does, and when it does, it will bring major judgment upon the world. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 24, that when you see the desolation of abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet back in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, when you see the Antichrist standing in the brand new third temple, declaring to the world that he is God, when you see it, you better flee. If you're living in the West Bank, if you're a Jew living in Judea, which is the West Bank, which there's almost 1 million Jews live in the West Bank right now. He says to them, you better flee. You better go now. Don't go back into your house if you've been working in the field or you've been working. Don't go back home. It's too late. And if you're in the house, get out of it and run because it's too late. Do not part the land. This is what God is saying in Joel 3. But apparently, Jesus saw in the prophecies of some attempt to do it with the Antichrist leading the way. Now, we still don't have any kind of an arrangement of peace, or let's put it this way. We don't see a covenant with many yet, even though I think I see development of it in the Abraham Accords that started with Jimmy Carter bringing in Egypt to peace, and then Bill Clinton bringing in Jordan to peace, and then Donald Trump bringing in the Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates and the Sudan and Morocco and Kosovo, I think it was, or Slovakia, I can't remember. He brought in 5 nations. He moved 5 nations, and they all signed onto this agreement. And we right now know that one of Trump's plans is to try to bring Saudi Arabia and other Sunni nations into this same agreement of the Abraham Accord to be at peace with Israel. But what I don't understand, and what I think everybody's watching very carefully, is when you do that, how do you do that without giving up something? And number 2, Jews are not going to give up the land. Israel, I mean, I can tell you, I was in the Knesset interviewing Rabbi Yehuda Glick when he slammed his desk and said, "We will never part the land. That's over. They had their chance." Well, things have changed since that interview, and I'm posting that interview, parts of it, on my Patreon channel. It's going to post in about 2 hours. I think it'd be up at 2:00 or something. You'll see it. It's an interview I did when I was in Jerusalem 8 years ago, and now here it is. So this is an incredible prophetic moment we're in. We're in a very, very prophetic moment. Well, let me just tell you what's going on here. Also in Egypt, just so you know, in Damascus, Syrian officials have just detained an Egyptian who has released a video in which he vows to overthrow the Egyptian government in Cairo. And this guy's name was Ahmad al-Mansur. He's been living over in Syria for years. He's been among some of the fighters of the group that overthrew President Assad, which is the HTS group, or al-Sham, that toppled the government of President Bashar al-Assad back in December. So this guy al-Mansur he's been preaching that he's going to go and overthrow Egypt. Well, the Syrian authorities have now detained him, and I think they're going to turn him back over to President al-Sisi of Egypt to deal with him. Now, al-Sisi has been in power in Egypt now for 12 years. When he was one of the top generals, and he had to take out Muslim Brotherhood President Mohammed Morsi. He got in power because Barack Obama destabilized the entire Middle East with his Arab Spring back in 2011. I've been covering all of this. I've been on here since the first day of March 1st, 2010. So I've been covering all of this. I've made 11 trips to Israel. I've met with members of the Knesset. I've been all over the whole country there. I can tell you that we've been watching Benjamin Netanyahu and the other 2 guys that have had small runs as prime minister, Bennett and what was that guy's name? I can't remember it at the top of my head right now. He's only in 6 months. Mostly Benjamin Netanyahu has been running that country. We've been watching all of this play out. There was a time when Netanyahu even said that a 2-state solution was possible. There was a time that even Donald Trump said, if it comes down to it, if that's what both sides want, I can live with it. But Trump has now changed his mind after the attack on October 7th. Israel's Knesset even voted unanimously that there will never be a 2-state solution permanently. They voted that here within the last year. But we have some more information here. Trump's return may signal a new path for Israel, moving beyond the 2-state solution. In other words, that 2-state solution, that's pretty well dead at this moment. Trump is trying to figure out a way to bring peace without parting the land. And the Jews are trying to figure out a way to get the rights to build the 3rd temple. This is all part of prophecy. Matter of fact, check this out. So Donald Trump could reshape Israel's path toward a 1-state vision. And Donald Trump's election may have paved the path. The British Peel Commission first proposed a separate Jewish and Arab states, a 2-state solution way back in 1937. That's 10 years before Israel was voted to become a Jewish state. Since then, the concept of a two-state solution has sparked fierce debate between Jews and Palestinians. Decades of Palestinian attacks on Israel and the growing societal isolation have eroded the public support for a two-state solution. And in polls in Jerusalem and in Ramallah have consistently shown a decline in support for a two-state solution. Now, following the traumatic events of October 7th, 2023, the two-state solution lost nearly all public support in Israel. By July of 2024, the Knesset had overwhelmingly passed a resolution rejecting ever the creation of a Palestinian state permanently. But we know the United Nations is still pushing for a two-state solution. And now with former U.S. President Donald Trump, his decisive victory in 2024 in the presidential election, the United States may now join Israel in moving beyond a two-state solution. President Joe Biden was pushing so hard. He wanted to create the two-state solution because of this war. He tried to use the war as a reason to force it. But Benjamin Netanyahu held his ground and refused to cave to even American pressure. Now, with Trump coming in, this is signaling a shift toward a new approach, grounding in current realities. According to David Friedman, who's one of Trump's key advisors on Israel, he just authored a book outlining an alternative plan for a one-state solution, which would be let Israel remain one nation. Trump heading back to the White House, there's a possibility that the U.S. president, that he will enable Israel to put David Friedman's vision into action. I believe Donald Trump will give Israel a free hand to decide its own destiny, according to Josh Rayenstein, head of the Israeli Allies Foundation, which educates and empowers an international network of pro-Israeli legislators. Trump understands that Israel is America's greatest ally and that we understand our own security concerns. The incoming president has a history of supporting Israel. He is shaped mainly by his key advisors, including top evangelical Christian advisors like former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and former Ambassador David Friedman and the new Israeli Ambassador Mike Huckabee and the new Secretary of State Marco Rubio that are coming in as Trump enters into his next administration. These including moving the U.S. Trump moved the he did 9. This is something that people need to hear. Donald Trump did 9 significant pro-Israeli policies the first time he was in office. 9, including he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and he also recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He declared that Israel is not an occupying force in Judea and Samaria and the West Bank, but rather the territory is still in dispute. And withdrawing from the Iranian nuclear deal, also defunding the UNRWA, the United Nations relief thing that was being used as a cover for Hamas. Also, his withdrawing from UNESCO, which was a corrupt United Nations education system that Hamas was using as a military hideout. And he also enacted the Taylor Force Act. He closed the Palestinian missions in Washington, D.C., and he signed an executive order to combat anti-Semitism, and he declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, undivided capital of Israel. So Trump, there's no question Donald Trump has done more for Israel than any president in history, except maybe Harry Truman, who enacted and declared and signed the document that made Israel a nation on May 14th, 1948. So there's no question Donald Trump is standing with Israel. And there's no question that the radical Islamists do not and did not want Trump back in power. But there are others who are still pushing from the United Nations. Emmanuel Macron is pushing very hard from France and the European Union, and even some of NATO truly believe that there should be a two-state solution. And so we're watching this develop. Now, this new administration, Israeli policy, in September, Friedman published a book called One Jewish State, The Last Best Hope to Resolve the Israeli-Palestinian Conflict. That book has sold over 2.7 million copies. Now, it also calls for American and Gulf support for a Marshall Plan to boost the region's healthcare, education, and prosperity. One Jewish state is a roadmap for alternative to a two-state solution that many leaders in Israel have informally adopted. This is the future, and the two-state solution is the past. And so it's really significant because that's almost exactly what Rabbi Yehuda Glick said to me when you remember, and I've been covering this for a long time. You guys remember when Rabbi Yehuda Glick was shot? He was shot 4 times point blank outside the Menachem Begin Conference Center there in Jerusalem. I was privileged to meet with him 6 months after he was shot, and he had survived. And he and I went to the location of where he was shot later that fall on the 1-year anniversary of the shooting in October of 2016. And he walked me through, and you can see it. I have it on YouTube here. You can see it. Later he was elected to the Knesset. And so I went there and interviewed him at the Knesset. He was very distracted that day because they had a big vote, and he kept looking out. But as we talked, he was very irritated. And the reason he was is because I was bringing up to him in part of that interview that back in Paris, France, Emmanuel Macron had 20 nations gathered, and they were drawing out the new two-state solution. And Emmanuel Macron was in Paris, France, with 20 different nations, and they were drawing it out. And I was interviewing Glick. I said, do you realize today what's going on in Paris? And he said, people talk. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. We're never going to do it. They had their chance, he said, in 1947. They had their chance after the 6-Day War. We offered it to them in 1967. They said no. Well, they had their chance in the year 2000 when Bill Clinton had that negotiation going on at Camp David, and it was offered to him, and Yasser Arafat said no. And so they had their chance 3 times, 1947, 1967, and the year 2000. They said no. Now they want it. It's too late. It's too late. Matter of fact, I just want you to hear a little bit of this. I was standing on the Mount Zion. And you'll be able to watch this. It's only a 7-minute video. I just posted it on Patreon. It will upload and post in about 2 o'clock is when it's scheduled to post. Here's just a little bit. Are you serious? Are you serious? A beautiful evening tonight here in Jerusalem, the city of the great king. Just to the west of me, there's a crescent moon on this, of course, about the 3rd or 4th day of Ramadan. Also, you can see behind me the iconic Dome of the Rock setting up on the Temple Mount, and the Wailing Wall illuminated by the light as those that are worshiping and praying are gathering there. So we have an evening like never before, a spectacular view that Stephen Ben-Danoon set up for us. And let me just say this. This has been a very, very historic day. Last night, we know there was a shooting in Tel Aviv. 9 were shot, 4 are dead. The Prime Minister of Israel said he's going to attack the attackers. What'd he do?
He froze all 83,000 permits for Palestinians to come from the Gaza Strip and from the West Bank to pray behind me on the Temple Mount. Now, at the same time, while this is going on, yesterday I had an interview with the newest member of the Knesset, Rabbi Yehuda Glick. We talked about several things from his office in the Knesset. And we started to talk about with him a forced two-state solution by the United Nations, and the fact that in France, 20 nations of the world were gathering without anyone representing Israel or anyone representing the Palestinian Authority. They were discussing a forced two-state solution.
And so they were literally, that's what they were doing. And Emmanuel Macron was the one that was leading the charge on this to try to force Israel into a two-state solution. Now that took place, and at the same time that was happening, Yehuda Glick was in the Knesset. I went to see him. So, and he got very angry. Okay, you'll be able to watch that interview. And that's part of that interview, I think, is a portion of it. You'll be able to watch this 7-minute video. It's very good on my Patreon channel, because we get into some areas that. So you'll be able to watch it there, and it will be posted there in about 2:00. It should come on. If you're not a member of the Patreon channel, it's real easy. Just go over to Patreon, Paul Begley, and become a member. You can you give whatever you want. The average person gives about $5 a month. You can give more, or you can give less. It's whatever God lays on your heart, but you get access to exclusive content there, and it's a very, very powerful discussion. So a reason I'm bringing this up is because here we are. The Trump's return may signal a new path for Israel. But the good news is not a two-state solution, but a one-state called Israel, and with everybody else living under the Israeli banner. And I'm just wondering, is that what they're going to try to do? Are they going to try to take the West Bank and Gaza and put them all underneath Israel and just call it one nation, which is really what it really should be? So if so, you can know this, that the armies from hell themselves will not like it. And there will be a major, this could set up the major battles that we call the Battle of Gog and Magog, because Turkey is not going to like it. I can tell you that. Most of the nations will not like it. And so this is kind of the, here we are. We've been witnessing this war. We think it can't get no worse, but it can. It's unbelievable. You're right. This will never be accepted, Pastor. You're exactly right. And that's what I'm trying to say. It will never be accepted, but they're going to try to force it on Israel. Okay? Israel will never agree to it. Matter of fact, they just voted to never agree to it. And Trump doesn't agree to it. It's because that Israel and America are refusing to even talk about a two-state solution, but to move forward, the rest of the world is coming against both America and Israel. And the prophecy of that happening is in Zechariah chapter 12, when it says that Jerusalem will become this cup of trembling, this burdensome stone for all people. And now everybody who's burdened with this will be broken into pieces. And then it says in Zechariah 14 that they attack Israel from every direction. And he actually even seized half of the city. And this becomes this incredible moment where the Lord has to come down from heaven and stand on the Mount of Olives to go to war to fight against the enemies who are going to try to force a two-state solution. They're going to try to force it. And that's what's going to bring the ultimate battle and the soon coming of the Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus Christ. Are you serious? It's incredible to me. but it is happening. So we're watching prophecy. We're watching it. I think Trump's going to try to put together an agreement that's peace without Iran, and it's not a two-state solution. And even Israel having the right to build their temple, but it's going to cause chaos in the rest of the world.
Saturday was silent, and surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? And Friday's disappointment is Sunday's
Thank you, Saul,
empty
man.
tomb.
Thank you, Saul, man.
Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of a dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again.
We're going to stop that song. It's incredible that song was. It's incredible that I'm doing a video right now talking about they're trying to force a two-state solution and how close we are in this whole war. And I'm going to thank Saul, man, for throwing that out there for me. But just 11 minutes ago, Qatar and Hamas have announced the ceasefire, that they have agreed to the ceasefire and the release of dozens of hostages. So now I've heard the wind blow before, but I always proof is in the pudding, but let's just see what this means. Give me one moment here. This happened while we've been doing this video. Unbelievable, really. But this happened so many times. It really has. 12 minutes ago, Israel and Hamas announced the ceasefire amid the Gaza conflict. Officials from Qatar and Hamas have announced the ceasefire to pause the Israeli Gaza campaign and to free multiple hostages. Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of dozens of hostages after more than 15 months of war. Any deal is expected to pause the fighting and bring hopes to winding down the most deadly and destructive war Israel and Hamas have ever fought, a conflict that has destabilized the entire Middle East and sparked worldwide protest. The plan still needs approval by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet. Very important. Let's say that again. The plan still needs approval from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet and then his full cabinet. Both are dominated by Netanyahu allies and are likely to approve any proposal he presents. So nearly 100 people who are still being held hostage in Gaza, believed to be 33 of them, are dead. The three-phase agreement would begin with the release of 33 women and children and older adults and wounded civilians in exchange for hundreds and hundreds of Palestinian women and children who are imprisoned in Israel. Soldiers and other male captives would be released in the second phase. All right, so you got to get through the first phase. Now, again, I repeat, Netanyahu has not yet signed off on this or his cabinet. I believe he's going to, but we still will wait for him to officially announce that. Out of the 100 hostages that are being held, as we said, 33 are believed to be dead. There might actually even be more than that. So, thank God. And so here we are. We're talking about it. So where do you go from here? I mean, it's funny. We're talking about the two-state solution, which I hope will never happen. But you got to go. Where do we go from here? Okay, so we're going to have a ceasefire, right? And we're going to slowly release hostages, and then Israel will release prisoners, and then Hamas will release some more hostages, and then Israel will release prisoners. And at some point, they'll finally finish the release of all the hostages. In this process, you can know this, that Hamas and the radical Islamic administration of Iran will try to force the world into making a two-state solution. Now, Donald Trump is coming into the White House next Monday at noon. He said they better all be out of there. It looks like, I have this feeling that they're going to release some of the hostages, but not all of them by noon on Monday. In other words, they're going to mess with Trump a little while. They're going to release some of them, and then they're going to wait to release the rest. And Trump will come into office, and he's going to be saying, I told you to get them out of there. And they're going to say, well, we've got a ceasefire. We're working on it. We've already sent some. Give us time. And they're going to try to drag Donald Trump along. They're going to try to drag it out. I'm talking about Iran and its proxies. Meanwhile, the Houthis are still shooting rockets at Israel. Hezbollah still got their guns pointed toward Israel and Lebanon. The Houthis are in Yemen. You have still a completely unstable Syria. You have Erdogan up there in Turkey running his mouth. And then you've got the Iranians and the Ayatollah Ali Khomeini who still got to be dealt with, which Trump is going to deal with. So, folks, there's no peace here. This is a hostage exchange, but there's nowhere peace in all of this. You've got a lot of moving parts. And then throw in Macron over here, who always sticks his nose in everything from France. And then you got to throw in the fact that you're dealing with still Russia, who's still fighting Ukraine, and Russia, who still has a footprint there in the Middle East. And then you got to worry about the United Nations and how they're going to pass resolutions against Israel if Israel doesn't, agree to a two-state solution. And then they're going to start passing resolutions against Donald Trump if they can. They're going to try to turn the world. So what I'm saying is, when they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction.
Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
We're a long ways away from peace.
Pentecostal fire, stirring something new. You're not gonna run out of miracles anytime soon. Your resurrection power, it runs in my veins too. I believe there's another miracle here in this room. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling.
That's right. In the world, you'll find tribulation, but in me, Jesus said, you'll find peace. He is the Prince of Peace.
My God is able to save and deliver and heal and restore anything that He wants to. Just ask the man who was thrown on the bones of Elisha if there's anything that he can do.
Are you serious? Get a cup of
Just
coffee.
ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb in the Garden
Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and I will put my spirit in you, and I will place you in your own land, and you shall live. I will place you in your own land. You shall live, 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 live.
We're running out of time, folks. You need to give your life to Christ. Live. So this is some the Washington Post is saying that the ceasefire deal is in sight. Some of the national media, the American media, still not officially proclaiming it. It is the foreign news agencies that are saying that it's been announced. But of course, that's NPR News and also another one. So the Middle East media is proclaiming that we have a deal, but Netanyahu and his cabinet still have to agree to the deal. I think they will. But here's the thing. They're not letting them all go. Just 33 out of the 100. And then there's going to be another phase, and then there's going to be another phase. Well, this is going to drag on. Exactly what I said would happen. That they would let some people go, they would let a few go before Trump gets sworn in, and then the others will come out. They'll let the others go after he's in, so that he can't make a move militarily and send in the Delta Force or the Green Berets or the Navy SEALs and just put an end to it, because they'll be halfway home. You'll have some of the hostages gone, have already been released, and others are on the way, but it's going to drag out. And they're going to try to drag this out, holding Trump hostage. This is how they're going to do it. And so Trump's not going to like it either, but he's going to be kind of caught in a vice, because if they let a third of them out, then does he storm the gates of hell before the other 66 can get released? And if he does and they all end up dead, he'll be blamed for it. So you've got him in a jam, and that's exactly what Hamas wants to do. But Trump is still very strong. He will not tolerate being messed with. And so this will make this a very volatile situation. So we're living in it's amazing to me. We're watching the Bible unfold right before our very eyes. It should be a very interesting show tonight over at Getting Ready at www.ffctv.church at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be there with Pastor Melvin Whittington, and I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion as we're on the brink of the release of hostages process, and we're on the brink of Trump taking back the White House, and we have wildfires still raging out of control in California. So there's so much going on. We're living in the end times. Give your life to Jesus Christ. And like I said, about 2:00, if you go to my Patreon channel, you'll be able to watch the video released that I did when I was in Jerusalem from 8 years ago. I'll see you. God bless. Are you saved?